time when countries have multiple bank accounts. So you can
small
imagine
countries going to fewer bank accounts just out of, or small municipalities or governing bodies.
going to one single bank account where everything goes in and everything comes out of the one account. And that way your treasury departments are able to keep track of it. Because even if you have two accounts and, one is the main and one is the secondary, maybe you don't check the secondary for a week. And that week is enough time for $500,000 to go missing. And then that might
absolutely.
be important.
Hey, Google, stop. Sorry. You guys always call me out about that, and I always forget that Foo Fighters are playing in the background. So from your experience, working with the Bahamian government, you were seeing this trend of large organizations, in this case municipalities, going to fewer bank accounts. And how are you comparing that to FTX's experience, to the best of your knowledge?
Was it wait, Jay, before you answer, I don't think it was the Bahamian. I think Jay was with St. Kitts.
St. Kitts. I'm so sorry. Yes. Yeah.
I want to make sure that's because if we are actually talking about the Bahamian government, that's insane that we have Jay who can talk to that.
St. Kitts is still pretty insane. Okay, he was working for the central bank of whatever.
No, it is still super insane, but I think it's less salient to the. Hey yes. Daniel, how you doing? He said, "How's it going?" I was like, wow, if we have Jay, our subject matter expert on the Bahamian government and how they want money to flow, this is amazing.
This is amazing. Okay. So I do want to hear the comparison though. So how do you compare this to what's going on with FTX and well, not Binance, but FTX?
Yeah. So on the FTX side, they will, from what I gather, in crypto, you don't really have a bank account. To get a bank account, you have to go and you have to fill out forms. You have to do this whole thing. Yeah. And then, they give you the privilege of a bank account. In crypto, you can have as many accounts as you want. I mean, no one is keeping track of those things. And so as a result, a consequence of it, you're able to move money back and forth and almost hide things, even though that may not be what you're trying to do. Yeah. So in the FTX case, they've got multiple accounts, dozens, maybe hundreds of accounts, and they're moving money constantly just to make stuff work for whatever they're trying to accomplish. And so what I think happens is, after you get over a certain amount of accounts, a handful of accounts, you start losing track of stuff.
Absolutely.
You might not check an account for a week. Who knows what happens? Anybody could have moved money there. When you come back to it, I don't remember what the balance was, especially in FTX case, if they're not keeping meticulous notes. Maybe I don't remember the balance from last week, and who knows if there's $100,000 missing or extra $100,000 in there or whatever's happened. So it can be tough.
You sidebar entirely about this. And for those just piping in, we're touching a little bit on what's now brewing in Binance, and we're trying to correlate that with some of the interviews that just happened with CZ from Binance, as well as the experience of what was been going on with FTX. But as a sidebar, Jay, as you're talking about that, what strikes me is if someone wanted to build a $100 million SaaS software, it's literally an accounting software for enterprise where they're able to ramp up accounts en masse or with a CSV file, like an Excel file, with naming that has conventional naming instead of just the Ethereum address. So an ENS kind of integrated thing, but then also have an API for auditors to come in and see histories of that. And because the blockchain already exists with all the data, it's literally under the hood just a naming software.
It seems like a simple thing, right? Yeah, like QuickBooks or Sage or one of these guys just needs to.
That's right.
Really
they were already using QuickBooks at FTX, so
what?
No,
they weren't. Are you serious? They weren't using QuickBooks at FTX. No,
that was
no, they were not.
That was one of the Jay. That was one of the
Google
it, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That was one of the biggest things that came out when they were in front of Congress. And literally, Jay, I've never seen Jay so angry.
He's melting down. He's like, I got on the show to hear this bullshit.
Jay didn't realize I was about to give him his full 12-ounce coffee in one sentence. Jay, so they did this, and then some congressman was like, that's the equivalent of having, I think it was a congressman. He was like, that's the equivalent of a $1 billion company using TurboTax.
Yes.
And I was
literally,
like, yo.
That's literally a $1 billion company.
Literally.
It's
Oh
bad.
my
It's
God.
bad. No, Google that. Yeah, that came out. I mean, basically, there was no oversight. And I yesterday spent there's no ethics. There's no talking about like what fraud is, what let's see, what fraud is, what theft is, what embezzlement is,
Yeah.
what bribery is. And the crazy thing is, yesterday I spent 3 or 4 hours going through code of ethics stuff that I have to do to be a Mercy Corps employee. And it was outlining all of that stuff. And I'm like, me working for a nonprofit who will never touch any money really,
Yeah.
had to go through more stuff than the entire FTX corporate team, C-suite. That's not good. That's not good. And like, it's also, and I think a lot of this, well, let's get off FTX for a second because FTX, whatever, it's already, that Rome is already fallen.
Binance,
yeah. Let's talk about Binance. And yesterday, something had happened that I thought was, I've seen it before in crypto, but I've seen it very rarely. And I want to share that with you because I think it ties into this Binance situation. And I am a pretty big proponent of Filecoin. It's in the top. It checks off a lot of my boxes when I look at a cryptocurrency and or something that I'm gonna like buy as an investment and hold. It has a max volume. I don't like things that can be created out of thin air other than Ethereum. Ethereum is the asterisk there. It's in the top 100. It's better if it's in the top 50. It's been, co-signed by people that have a lot more skin in the game and I think are a lot more intelligent about this stuff. Those are the Winklevoss twins. And it's also been put on Coinbase, which is now becoming a new one because they have to do so much due diligence because they're a publicly traded company. So anyways, all this to be said, I want to look at just talk about some basic things here. So its all-time high was $208. Okay. $208. And
it's at $3.
Yeah. It has been trading around $5 for a while. Now I picked up a pretty good amount. I had a buy set up for when it hit 425. All right. So follow me here. Top of 208. It was around $5. I got in around 425. It hit a month ago. I just like Binance sent me a thing. It's like your order has been filled. Great. Moved it to the ledger. Cool. Last night, it went from around 418 yesterday. And I'll show you that in my, I'll show you that. Yesterday, it went from around 418 to
2. Oh my God.
To 270.
Okay.
In about 20 minutes. And I've read multiple things on this, but one of the things that Will Clementi said about this, he's a very well-known kind of like analyst, on-chain analyst is, and then Jose Pichardo and I were talking with a guy from Lunch Money Gems. He says, several crypto coins related to Barry Silbert's DCG have been selling off aggressively. Filecoin, Zen, ETC, and Near, leaving many speculators to wonder whether the selling is derived from DCG itself. Now, I also heard, and I need to confirm this, though, that basically CZ had sold off like 500 million Filecoin as he's trying to balance books. So because he sold that many so quickly, that's why it also just went. But imagine the price in 15 minutes went from about 418 to about 270. So the market is
was he just dumping at like, was he just doing a market order, like a series, like 500 million is a lot. No one just injects 500 million of in a single transaction. They usually break it up. So they might sell it at this amount, this amount, this amount, this amount.
Sure. But over such a short period of time, I've rarely seen things. I've seen it. Like this is what happens in crypto, right?
Yeah.
But normally you don't see something bounce like that from $4.18 down to about 270 or even 259.
Filecoin, you said? Filecoin?
Yeah, Filecoin. And you can just look at it.
Yeah.
And Filecoin was a good purchase too, right?
And you can
good idea.
If you just look at it, it literally just goes zoop.
Yeah.
It's like straight line. It's parabolic. And anyway, so that you don't normally see that in your top 50 coins. Maybe you'll see a 50% swing in one day, but not almost a 22% swing in 15 minutes. No.
What price that would mean that he was selling it at less than $3, right? So
if he drove that, I mean,
almost $40, and then he's like, you know what? I'm going to sell it at a discount for 25% discount.
Or there was a panic selling when they saw his chunk. Maybe he was one of the first as a whale to sell for like 350, 375. I'm making this up. But we could go look at the ledger. I mean, we should just, this is the glory of the ledger. Someone needs to be able to create a UX where I can just look and go, here's that $500 million sell. It was exactly like this. And then here's all the panic selling that drove it down. That could have been. But I mean, maybe Jay, maybe.
Yeah, actually, and when I look at it here on what I'm looking at, it looks like it wasn't in 15 minutes. The main drop,
the volumes went up after the price drop.
Yeah, but it went from 378 to 280 to 378 to 257 in 15 minutes.
Yeah, I'm looking.
Anyways, it's absolutely crazy, but it worked its way down yesterday from 418 because I watch it. It's in my portfolio. I look at that every time I go to the app. I'm just constantly looking at like a couple numbers. So, anyways, that rarely happens in top 50. Not saying it doesn't happen, saying it rarely happens, but when it does happen, it is the absolute sign of just insane volatility. I'm saying insane volatility within what everyone assumes is the biggest, like the most volatile global market that there is.
What is DCG?
That's insane. I don't know. I have to dive into his tweets more.
Oh, okay. Got it. Okay. I didn't know if they were attributing this because we're talking about Binance and we mentioned CZ dumping a bunch and then we mentioned some other joker with DCG. So I'm not really sure what that is. But
yeah. And somebody says, well, if DCG goes, then Grayscale goes. I think that's one of the bigger things is that apparently Grayscale is having problems. The Grayscale Bitcoin Trust.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have exposure to that are trying to get exposure to crypto. And I know a guy who's pretty wealthy and he has GBTC. And I'm telling him, dude, why are you buying the synthetic? Why are you buying? Just buy Bitcoin and put it on cold storage or even into Trust Wallet. You know, I guess I don't understand. Well, I do understand why people buy GBTC because I think that has certain tax advantages or something like, you know, it's easier for them to have in their portfolio. I think they can also put it into like IRAs and stuff. And you can't do that. Well, I think you can now do that with Fidelity, which is why he's currently in the process of moving his entire, I think a Roth or something, whatever. He's moving some big financial product for retirement over to Fidelity because he's like, I don't want to own GBTC anymore. Because I've been telling him for 2 years, why are you buying a synthetic? Just go buy Bitcoin. I don't understand.
What is GBTC?
Grayscale Bitcoin Trust.
Oh, got it. Okay.
What is Bitvavo? I'm like
spell
looking
it.
Bitvavo. I'm reading this stuff. So DCG, which is Digital Currency Group, which is a capital markets company, they apparently owe Bitvavo $300 million, and that's locked away. Genesis owes Bitvavo $300 million, that's locked away. So this DCG thing, Bitvavo seems like they're about to go down because of whatever's going on.
What boggles my mind is why these companies would go down when they're investment companies. Like, how many employees do they have? Like, there should be like. Go ahead.
But it's not the employees though that's killing them. It's the leverage. It's that the you know, when you're levered up even 3-to-1, this is a horrible time. And that's low leverage in crypto where you can go 20 or 100-to-1. I mean, FTX was offering retail traders 20-to-1. That's insane leverage. So I think it's the leverage grant, not the employers.
Well, and I stand corrected. Bitvavo is not an investment group. Bitvavo is another CEX. And so that would explain, because you're right. Like the leverage, if I'm an investment company, I put 20 million into a company and they're leveraging, I'm not. I invested 300, in this case, I invested 300 million and I don't have that 300 million and I'm still operating. So if they renege on what they owe me, that sucks. I might have to eventually file bankruptcy, but I'm not going to collapse. It's the fact that
how you throw it in air quotes
because it's paperwork. It's paperwork.
Oh, so DCG owns CoinDesk, Genesis, and Grayscale, and Loot.
They own Genesis.
They own Genesis.
I thought the Winklevoss boys did.
Yeah.
I mean,
interesting.
In their, like, according to Google, the company has 5 subsidiaries: CoinDesk, Foundry. I don't know. There's like lots of companies.
Yeah. So
Genesis,
CoinDesk and Genesis is
Grayscale,
huge.
and something called
They
Luno.
own Grayscale.
Mhm.
DCG. Okay, so yes, I could see, but Jarrett, back to your point. If someone is a centralized exchange playing some form of shell game, I don't think what Sam Bankman-Fried was doing, I don't think it's much different, except for like the goofiness like QuickBooks and stuff. But in terms of how money's being kind of just moved around, I don't think it's that different than how nearly all unregulated centralized exchanges are working. And so when you look at what you're saying about Bitvavo being owed 300 million, yeah, I could easily see them going, "Oh crap, people are going to go for withdrawals," and it's died over here on DCG. But Jay, if what you're saying is correct, that they own outright Grayscale, Genesis, and the other one you just mentioned,
CoinDesk.
CoinDesk. If they own those outright and not just like shareholders, that's nuts. But they don't have a liquidity issue. Genesis has a liquidity issue, right?
They also only have 9 employees. That's hilarious.
See, this is my point. How much do 9 employees cost? And so, like, if you lose hundreds of millions, but you still have like some change, like but the centralized exchanges make sense because depositors are going to start knocking on the door like it's a bank, and it's
Yeah,
not.
exactly.
It's not a bank. I'm telling you, we have to have regulation. We have to have. Do you guys? Where are you at on regulation?
It's coming. I think it's just it doesn't matter if you want it or not at this point. It's coming.
Yeah, that's how I feel. I don't even. It's like having a. I don't know. It's like how I feel about the climate crisis, and people are like, "Do you believe in it?" I'm like, "This isn't something to believe in. Like, go outside. It's December in Massachusetts and it's 70 degrees. Like, I don't need to have an opinion on it. It's kind of just science." And so
Yeah.
that's how I feel with regulation too. It's coming. You can say you hate it, but you're just throwing, you're throwing a rock at a tank. I'm fine with it. I have no problem because regulation is just acceptance. And for a lot of people who
Regulation
have
is acceptance. I like that.
for a lot of people who have money, they need to see the government okay it before they actually put anything into it. This is local banks, as I was talking about. They're like, well, if it's not FDIC approved, we can't even touch it. I'm like, that's cool. So yeah, I'm down with regulation, and that sounds super weird because the whole idea of crypto is to get outside of like normal financial structures. But I think for mass adoption, you're going to absolutely it has to play a part. It just has to play a part because most people, whether they're running a huge centralized exchange or they're just a retail investor, cannot be left to their own devices. They need some kind of safe rails. And I know that that's like, if there's libertarians out there, they're probably just like, stay away from my money. Let me make my own mistakes, whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We've seen how that works.
So let's go back to Binance if we could. And before we got on the call, we were referring to this interview, and you guys had a take on it that he either was overconfident in one instance and had poor answers in another. Tell me about this. Like, what did you see that was like overconfident? What did you see that was like not quality answers?
Yeah.
Jay, what for you is overconfident? Because we both saw the interview, and that's maybe not what I took away. And when I spoke last time about when Sam Bankman-Fried's interview, I said something, and you guys took away different things. So
you had a different thing.
please tell me.
So the questions, I felt the questions that were coming at CZ were pretty tough questions. They were basically the reporters who, admittedly, at least from my perspective, don't seem to have like a ton of crypto knowledge.
No.
They were basically comparing FTX to Binance, and they were saying, look, everybody love SBF, and he was saying a whole bunch of stuff, and then his exchange crashed. We look at what you're tweeting out, you're saying the exact same things about, like, we're 1-to-1 and we've got enough, and don't worry, everybody can come and take their funds and we're fine. Like, how do we know you're not going to crash in a couple hours as well? And CZ just sort of repeated the same stuff. He says, don't worry, we're 1-to-1. And then he said, well, and then he changed topics and he started like blaming O'Leary and Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, and just sort of like going all over the place. So in one aspect, he seemed like way too confident. He should have really dived a little deeper into answering the questions to ensure that the reporter had a good understanding of what Binance's financial situation was, more than just saying like, "Hey, we're 1-to-1." And
Yeah.
then on the other hand, Kevin O'Leary is such a small player in finance. Like maybe he's really big in entrepreneurship because of Shark Tank, but in the financial world, such a small player. I can't imagine in my wildest dreams like somebody like somebody from BlackRock or JP Morgan or something saying like, that Kevin O'Leary guy, I like, who's even going to mention his name?
I don't think that's his concern. I think Kevin O'Leary is an influencer, which is a depositor concern. People sit at the feet of the sharks. Damon John, Kevin O'Leary, Mark Cuban, and they drink from that well. And if these guys say yay, they'll make deposits. If these guys say nay, they'll make withdrawals. So I don't think CZ's worried about the financial overlords. I think they're worried about public sentiment more than anything. That was my takeaway of that, of like, man, like he's blowing the sand out from under the foundation of what we're trying to do. And he's full of, I don't know Kevin O'Leary's position on any of it, but I just know that he has a bullhorn for the masses, or for some masses, So, but maybe you're right. Maybe he's just playing up to his feud, and it's really irrelevant. I don't know. Like, are they feuding?
I think he's set himself back. Like when you know how like if you're the king and you're saying, "Yo, I'm blaming it on the the underclassmen," everybody's gonna look at it like, you just took like 5 rungs down to try to blame this person who isn't necessarily on your level. Like, CZ's a billionaire. Like come on, man.
Yeah. Why are you even worried about this guy?
At the billionaire level, like no, that made me concerned.
I'm super concerned about Binance because Jay, I feel like you know about soccer, and Grant, you're getting baptized by fire here with another World Cup. Maybe you'll come on board. But there's an idea in soccer that you don't want to hear. It's good. Your center backs are the two guys that you either have a 2 or a 3 center back pairing, and they're the last line of defense before you get to your goalie. And a good center back makes tackles with their minds, meaning they organize their soldiers in front of them in a way that they don't have to make the tackle. They're pushing people up. They're saying, "Hey, close this space. Hey, tuck in. Hey, tuck in. All right, advance." They should do the least amount of work on the field because they are the shepherd, basically guiding the flock from the back. So the point is, when you've had a bad game, it's because you've heard the center back's name a lot, right? If you're watching a game on TV, the announcer's been saying that person's name. Oh, Grant, Grant and Jay, Grant and Jay. You shouldn't hear them. They should be silent. And I have the exact same theory about centralized exchanges now, because the second you start to see MFs hop on podcasts, get on CNBC, shit went bad. Do was in that famous interview where he was like, yeah, he said something like really sarcastic about what if it all went to 0 or something. He said something like that, and everyone's like, bro, what? It didn't make sense, but now you're like, dude, he said that. And then Sam Bankman-Fried was also, like when things came out, he's just like Jay said, he came out, he's like, no, the house isn't on fire. And he was like that little girl in the meme where she's like standing in front of a burning house. And so now that I see CZ come out and be more loud, he's like the CB dude. I'm starting to hear his name more. So I'm starting to question the overall strategy. And even last night, I was telling my dad, I was like, Dad, we're getting you a ledger or ordering that. That's ordered. We're also going to open Trust Wallet. We're getting your stuff off today. You're going to put that on your phone. We're going to write down the seed. That's done. We're getting your shit off Binance. I think Binance is done before. I'm saying now, I think Binance is done before January 15th. If I eat my words, I hope I do. If I eat my words, I hope I do. But what I've seen in recent history, if I'm a trauma victim, it's triggering with PTSD. We've just seen this happen. We've seen Do fall.
FTX.
We've seen FTX fall, Sam Bankman-Fried. And I say this because Sam Bankman-Fried was just the coolest guy on the planet. Look at this, bro. He's figured it out. He's got frumpy
style. It's on.
He's a chunky dude. He's in Poly. You know, all the dudes with abs are like, what am I missing?
Yeah, what am I missing?
They're doing
$10
sit-ups at the
billion.
gym. Like, what am I
Yeah.
missing? Sam Bankman-Fried out here having fun. So
Yeah.
I've said it. I think by January 15th. Now, I hope I'm wrong. This is one of those things I'm going to say, but I hope I'm wrong, because if Binance falls out, it's a wrap on a lot of things for a long time. That's one of my biggest on-ramps. My second biggest was BlockFi. BlockFi's dead, lost money. Silly me. Blame myself. So
Did
this
you
is
say
not
that
this
you
is
had
not good.
Did you say you had a transaction frozen or delayed or something?
Yeah, so I've been trying to get off money off. I had one last coin I was basically trying to get off, and now I have some money that I've been putting on there because of the way Binance US works. I can only put on $1,000 a day, and I've been saving up cash for more than half a year. So I've been for a while. I was putting money onto the exchange just so in the event I want to buy, I have some liquidity because I can only put 1,000 on a day. But I think they even changed it because now I can only take 1,000 off a day. So now I'm going to spend the next
Yo,
couple of days to take it off. But I think it used to
yo,
be I could take out 50,000 a day. So
What does
now
that
I'm
mean to
like,
you, Jay? Jay is like, yo.
yo, what
I'm
is
just
that?
saying. I think January 15th is conservative. If you're looking at what Do Kwon, that shit happened overnight. Sam Bankman-Fried happened overnight. We're having red flags, right? We're talking
Yep,
about the red flags now. Like,
I'm
this
with
should
you,
not
dude.
be a concern, right? Like, everyone on the internet's like, we're not going to give you kudos because you're one-to-one, with retailers' money after you've said you're one-to-one, and that is your entire mandate. Like, I'm not going to give if you're doing your
Interesting.
job, you're not getting a high five. Like, that's where we're at. That's where I am with CZ. So it's not
Man,
good. I'm just
Jay,
saying,
what are you
I've said it.
hearing there?
I like what Jared is coming from. I'm initially when he said the January 15th thing, I thought like, oh, that sounds too close. Like in
It's a
two
lot of
weeks,
time, Jay.
he's
It's a
gonna
lot.
turn
It's
it
not 2
around. But
weeks. It's a month.
it,
It's December
yeah, it's a
17th for
month.
everyone listening. Whenever you're listening to this, it's December 17th. So if you listen to this in February and you're like, oh, the guy thinks he's a Nostradamus, he's telling me, whatever. It's December
Man,
17th. We have 4 weeks. You
we
know how
need to
much
have
time
an
that is?
NFT line that is memorabilia from these collapses. And they need to be like Garbage Pail Kids. You remember Garbage Pail Kids cards from the
No,
80s?
I'm Googling. I'm Googling.
Look
I'm
up Garbage
Googling.
Pail Kids. They're like Cabbage Patch Kid cards, but they're like dark. And they're called Garbage Pail Kids. I mean, it was like dark, like Mad Magazine dark.
Oh
We
my
should have a
God.
series of NFTs that are like the Garbage Pail Kids of centralized exchange collapses. Like,
Yo, let's talk about NFTs. NFTs back. Did you see the Trump NFT
He
sold
sold
out?
45,000 in less than 24 hours, and he sold NFTs for $100.
Mm-hmm.
I
So
I
hold
can't
on.
even with this shit. I
Four
can't
and a
even
half
with this.
million dollars in
Like a
24 hours.
free money.
Yeah.
A free money. This guy is still making money. This
On
criminal
NFTs.
is still making nothing makes me angrier about our society, about American society.
Are you guys saying
what-
you didn't pick up a couple?
No, I did not.
Tell me you didn't buy. Did you buy? Listen,
it's Trump
I don't have a
NFT.
moral high ground on much, but Jarrett, did you buy a Trump NFT?
What do you guys
You
think?
did not.
What do you think?
He did buy a Trump NFT.
What do you
There's
think?
no way.
Hey,
What do you
Jamali
think?
is Jamali. He bought a Trump
Dude,
NFT.
Jamali's laying in bed somewhere giggling like, look at these
Jamali, did you buy
jamokes
a
getting
Trump
up.
NFT?
No, I'm glad I've gotten you and Jay's blood pressure this morning up just by asking rhetorical questions.
We were about to have friend issues, bro.
Oh, we don't need to be friends. We're bros.
I mean, everyone's got their politics, but funding these NFTs.
No.
Oh my
110%
God. I'm like, who is
no.
funding that machine, dude?
No,
Oh.
but I will say this. Here's the thing I will say. And I'm going to do I'm doing an episode on this first. Can you see me, Ella? I mean, here's the thing. If you bought a Trump NFT strictly because you knew he's got people that will give him money, even when he says he's building a wall, he's not going to build. The guy's known for a fraudster. So if you're going to buy, if you buy a Trump NFT, that's fine. Like, okay. If you buy a Trump NFT though, and you're like, I'm just going to buy this, other people are going to buy this. And this is just a thing where I'm going to buy 10 of them at 99. So I'm going to put $1,000 into this and I'm going to try to sell them for each $200 and do that in the first 24 hours and make $1,000 out of thin air. Yeah. Then it is what it is. The one thing that this NFT, I'm actually so glad that he dropped these NFTs. I am through the roof because it builds on what we've been saying. You can't monetize a community you don't have. He actually did it right. He came
Yes.
out and he said,
You're
let me
right.
monetize. And he
You're
sold
right.
45,000. You know how many NFTs that is? MF's come out with 5,555 to be cute, and they never sell even a tenth of them with their
Yeah.
Discord full of bots and their Twitter that they bought. I love what he's done because
Wow.
it's basically said you have to monetize your community. If you don't have a community, don't try to monetize. I am very much not a Trump supporter, and I don't
Sure.
care. I talk about politics all the time. It makes people
Yeah.
uncomfortable. That's it.
Yeah.
I didn't buy one. I think it's crazy. It talks about the value of community. His NFTs are some of the ugliest things on the planet. You wouldn't even wear a
Oh,
t-shirt
him
that
ripping his shirt open, and it's just like,
Oh. So anyways, I think it's actually changed the game for NFTs. Like when you look at like the 10 biggest things that have
really?
happened in NFTs, I put it it's in the top 10 for me. 100%. Because he's changed the way the whole game's. What's the utility? The utility is
It
just
is
buying one of
it,
these things.
it,
There's no utility to it. It's not like you're
The
going to get like a
yeah.
dinner at McDonald's
The
with Donald
utility is
Trump.
the conservative dream, right? Like, and this is the thing about community building. Let's not necessarily derail into politics. Let's talk about community building. The best community building is community built on extreme clear definition of what that community is about. And that is something that he has been masterful at for decades. That's something that Rupert Murdoch, like, have you guys watched this Netflix or documentary? It was basically the show Succession was written on this, and watching Rupert Murdoch because Rupert Murdoch started at very liberal in Australia. And once he got to the UK and realized that conservatism or nationalism really triggered more extremes than liberalism, he leaned into it and he started buying up magazines. And people say he's got a conservative agenda. It's unclear if that's actually his MO, but he knows how to ride a pony of extremes and build a community. And Trump is running that playbook. And so my question is how can an NFT community, like if it's not an extreme nationalistic or a political agenda with a community, it's hype, which is where kind of like where are Bored Apes, right? Bored Apes, they're still building their metaverse, but I don't know. Like, do you know anything about the Bored Ape metaverse, or is it just talk and headlines? It's not even hype anymore.
Yeah, I
not
don't
in headlines anymore for sure.
Yeah, it's not even in headlines, Jay's right. I mean, I put out an episode of More Than Blockchain. I said 99% of NFTs are going to zero. I put that out in May, and I just knew I had to sit on it and wait. There's going to be dark times in crypto, and dark times in crypto are going to bring dark times to NFTs. Most NFTs are not going to last. Whatever NFT you have right now is probably not going to be around in 2025. The chances are higher that it's not going to be around than it is going to be around. Because when you build a community off hype, you're building a community off price appreciation. So when it goes the other way, then the community dissolves by definition.
Yeah.
So
unless they have some, transcendent cause.
Sure.
Right.
Oh, sure.
And
Right.
a cause that transcends that, which often with politics and extremism, that can take any form. They're looking for any medium to apply themselves to. And in this case, that medium was an NFT launch. We should use AI to generate a conservative avatar. And what is NFT? Oh, Sheila Hollowell. Thank you, Sheila. Sheila is a friend of mine, local here. It is non-fungible token, Sheila, is what the actual acronym stands for. But in the crypto space, it's basically digital collectibles. And it makes up a huge portion of the crypto market. Like when people talk about crypto, and this is the Not Crypto Show, Sheila. When people talk about crypto, they're often talking about cryptocurrencies. But what they don't realize is there's a humongous swath of the market that's just these digital collectibles. And non-fungible simply means, I'm sure you know, but non-fungible means it can't be, its ownership can be verified to be sole. And even though you might be able to copy a picture or share a picture in some way, the proof of ownership is irreplaceable. And it's a nuance like, you could put your mortgage on an NFT, but it started in the world of art. So that's kind of like the 5-minute primer of NFTs, and they're big. They're big. But in terms of community building, do you see, you put this, Jarrett, you put this in the top 10.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, okay, give me a few ideas of what else is in the top 10, because that's big. That's
Top
big.
10. Yeah. So top 10 historically, if you go back, you have CryptoKitties, you have CryptoPunks, their mints. I'm just saying I'm talking about top 10 projects, right? I'm putting,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, of
the reason
course.
why I put the one of the other ones I think is obviously Bored Ape and everything that Yuga has done, I think is really impressive.
Mhm.
I think one of the ones that is really cool is Psychedelics Anonymous, PA. This
I
is
have
one where
seen
you need
that.
to collect 4 different items to have a full
Yeah.
set. And so I want to talk about PA. PA's, I think they got up to $1 billion, but you had to collect 4 different items to get to a whole set. You have to have different NFTs.
Yeah.
And each set was under $10,000, under 10,000 collection. So we're
Mhm.
talking about 40,000. And it still took them a while with a good Discord community and a Twitter community. And I think they did it right. And I
Like,
thought
it
their
wasn't
art
an
was
overnight mint. It took them a while
wasn't
to
an
mint.
overnight mint. And to get up to that amount is still less than 40,000 NFTs sold. So when he comes out and sells 45,000 in one day, dude, that's huge.
That is interesting.
I've never seen that many NFTs move that much. Like Bored Apes came out, it
Yeah.
minted at 0.08 ETH. And I don't think it minted out the first day. We could look, but it took a little time. I've
Yeah.
never seen that many move in one day. And it makes
Yeah.
sense because he's Donald Trump and people will die for him, you know? And
That's
so that's why I
nutso.
think it's so big because I've never seen that volume move. Now I know the price was
The
super cheap, but I thought
volume.
he was super smart because if I ever launch an NFT project, I want to have a low price. But what you want to have is you want to have a 10 to 20% fee every time it's exchanged. That's where you make the money. You don't make
Yeah,
the
the
money off the
creator
mint.
fees. I can't believe there's a trend to get rid of creator fees. Okay, I hate what I'm about to say. I hate it.
Here we go.
What I'm about to say.
Here we
I
go.
just opened up OpenSea, and the top trending collection,
Yeah, Donald Trump.
Trump digital trading cards, ripping off his shirt with abs and pecs.
This
Is the
is what
top
I'm talking
trending.
about. I think it's top 10. Like you could have an
I
argument that
cannot
there are
believe
other
this.
ones. You can have an other ones that they're like, I think like so when I say Bored Apes, I'm gonna put Bored Apes and Mutant Apes kind of together and what they did with the ooze. I think that's one. Like I've said, CryptoKitties,
The
CryptoPunks.
mutants.
I think the Psychedelics Anonymous was interesting because of all the kits. Oh, what's up, Victor? Victor, I want you to weigh on this too. Like, what are some other big, Jamarly as well? Anyone out there in NFTs? Like, what are other big things that you think are on the level? But for me, selling 45,000 in almost 24 hours, while mainstream media and everyone else laughs at it, also is massive. I also don't know if there's been a brand or a person that's dropped an NFT collection that's of his size.
I don't know, but I'm looking at the top collections on OpenSea
Yep,
right now.
sure.
In the last 24 hours, his is far and away. So I panicked, and so I went and looked at all time, and it doesn't show up in the top 10. And I praised all the things that are holy.
It's not, yeah, it's not going to show up only because like we've done the math. It's 4.5 million.
So I'm
But
looking though, the top in the last 30 days. Have you heard of the Legend of Cock Punch? In the top, in the last 30 days, they've done 5,000 ETH of volume. They sold or minted, or the floor is 0.88 ETH. This is from author Tim Ferriss.
Oh, cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Who launched this project, and I saw a headline about it, and I thought nothing of it, but I didn't realize it was a top 5 over the last 30 days on OpenSea. That's pretty impressive, but I don't know how many he issued. I could pull up the collection right now, Jarrett. So to your point, listening to your criteria, I have to give credit where credit is due to a marketer. The marketer that he is and that his team is. You're absolutely right. Okay, so the Legend of Cock Punch, for example, is 5,500 items, collectibles. So it's far less than Donald Trump. So that is nuts. I'm going to cry a little bit later about this.
Well, I don't think you have to cry for long. And here's why.
Okay.
I believe that, or look at the volume. It's up 200% in the last.
I know.
There's
Holy
more
shit. But
volume happening there than a Bored Ape.
exactly. So here's the thing. I've said this before, and I just think it's something really true. And it's a Bezos quote I heard, but it's like,
God.
If it takes you 6 months to build a business, you will destroy the business in 6 months. That's just how this works. If it takes you 3 months, everything's balanced and everything's Rug Radio or 20K of them. Exactly. So my point here is because he minted in 24 hours, no one takes these things seriously. The story in my head is no one takes these seriously. They're all in there for the money. This thing will pump. I believe it will go 5x from when you bought it, if that's what you want to do. But this thing is gonna two things are gonna happen. One, the price of ETH is gonna start to go down. So because you bought it in ETH, that's gonna be affected. And I think that's gonna happen over the next couple months.
Okay.
And two, I just think that, eventually, like Victor saying, Rug Radio, or, people bought huge swaths of these because they had ETH sitting there and they were looking for an NFT. And they're like, oh, obviously Trump's going to pump. Like, who's bigger than Trump to pump? Like, this is great. So this thing, I love making predictions because I don't mind being wrong. I like it.
Predict me.
My birthday is in March. By March, I'm predicting that the Trump. Yeah, exactly. By my birthday, I'm predicting that the Trump NFT is nearly done and dusted. People have
he's
sold
made
out,
his money, and he's getting
pumped and dumped. Yeah,
and he's getting
gonna
creator
make millions
fees while they swap. And he has what he really needs. His ego stroked every single day that cha-ching comes through and someone does a swap. But good on him from a marketer. You're absolutely right. And so the question is how do we create not crypto bro extremists? How do we do that? Let's go. How do we create not crypto bro extremists so that we can launch a freaking
Grant, you're going to have to run for president of the United States because Jay and I can't. So you're up, buddy. Good luck.
Why can't you?
I wasn't born in the States, homie.
Oh, you're right. Oh,
you just have to be. There's two things. You have to be born in the state. Oh, I could be vice president. You have to be born in the state. Actually, no, you can't. You can't even be vice president because in the event that if you're vice president and the president dies, you're up, and then you can't be. So they probably won't even let that happen. But you just have to be over 35, and you have to be born outside the United States. That's it. Anyways,
that's unfortunate.
That's for another day.
You just broke my heart with this NFT deal. I'd rather talk about FTX collapse and Binance destroying the market than.
Well, let's go back to Binance, right? So what happens if Binance goes down? The ripple effect of Binance going down. Funny. The ripple effect of Binance going down. I can't actually fathom because I think it would make Mt. Gox look like a bar mitzvah. It would be one of the darker moments in crypto history. You would see Bitcoin go to under 4,000 or 5,000 easily, as people just take stuff off exchange. I mean, Binance is the biggest exchange globally by like a long shot. Jarrett, for 2025, who knows? I'll vote for you. Well, you know what, Victor? Maybe what I'll do is I'll run for president, even though I'm not legally, and then I'll just see how many votes I can, gobble up. And I'll run on, the only way you can contribute to my campaign is through my NFT, where I have pictures of me ripping my shirt off. And everything will be on the Bitcoin standard. Yeah. If you pay your taxes in Bitcoin, you can pay half. There it is. That's my entire thing.
Interesting. And then, let me ask, because Puerto Rico is part of the United States. Can a Puerto Rican-born American run for president? Is like it's not a protectorate; it's a legit part of the United States. So there's protectorate. Like
they should be able to. I feel like they should be able to.
Because
but then again, Puerto Rico has absolutely no representatives in Congress that can vote. So I don't actually know. They're one of us until it's not advantageous for them to be one of us. Puerto Rico we give no respect to these people, which is I hate. So
yeah. Okay, so Binance, you're calling Binance is going to fail. And let's talk about this real quick. So I mentioned a few shows ago, how my friend Austin Rickley suggested that KuCoin is having liquidity issues, and I bailed. And I vented in our last show about how my dollar cost average was screwed. And I've been trying to rebuild my portfolio. I say all this to say this, and I'm probably going to do a YouTube on this. There are major flaws in using Ledger that I have discovered in the last week.
This is great.
As a cold storage, it's phenomenal, right? So what's the number one imperative as you're moving crypto? Do as few transactions as possible So you can save on swap fees, trading fees, exchange fees, and transfer fees, because that can really eat in, especially with Ethereum. If it's the wrong time of day, your Ethereum fees could be through the roof. So I think you guys and a lot of the people watching the show know I often use Cardano. Now I'm starting to use Matic more and more because they're phenomenal. They're fast. It's a great platform. So I'm trying to, when we got off the last show, I had to rebuild my entire portfolio. And the test I gave myself is, can I build this exact portfolio in Ledger Wallet? And gotcha. There's a lot of flaws with this. For example, HBAR. HBAR requires its own custom wallet, and HBAR is an ISO 20022 coin. So I'm trying to carry HBAR, and it requires its own wallet, which is not native. Neither is Avalanche, which I hold some Avalanche, and Avalanche is still a good platform, and I think it's a good developer platform. I don't know if it'll be around in another 5 years, but for now I'm stacking it still. I've got a lot of that. So when you get into Ledger, Ethereum has a native wallet, and it connects right to the Ethereum blockchain. And if you add any ERC token, it'll appear in your Ethereum account. You just transfer it to, Victor, HBAR, man. That's what I'm talking about, bro.
Yeah, HBAR's one that it's around 4.5 cents, but if it goes to 2 cents, I'm dumping money into that. So
it's worth it, and it's part of the legit bank. It will be part of the compliant financial system as it comes to crypto. So you got to have HBAR, you got to have Avalanche. And what you do is this. Here's my Ledger right here. When I open up Ledger Live, there's wallets within Ledger Live on how you manage it. But a few wallets like Avalanche, like HBAR, and there was another one, Algorand's fine. I can't remember off the top of my head. Oh, XDC. Some of these require third-party wallets. So I have to bring up a browser for the Avalanche wallet. Now, there is some security measures. I can't access the wallet on the website without my Ledger, but I don't see it in Ledger Live. So I can't actually track it on like CoinStats. And I can't swap it. So what I did was I thought, oh, this is going to work. Everyone swears that I can swap and trade on Ledger just to rebuild my portfolio. So I moved everything over there in Matic in one transaction and saved a ton of fees. And I began swapping to restructure my portfolio based on what was in KuCoin. And then I hit HBAR and I couldn't do it. I got caught. I've got to now calculate what that HBAR amount was in Matic, send it back to Coinbase, where I was just operating out of, or Binance US, or whatever you're in right now. And then figure out, do I send it back to KuCoin and swap it there? Or do I swap it there? And HBAR, I think you can purchase HBAR on Coinbase. So I bought it then, but I paid a fee. And then I've got to do the fiasco of moving into a browser and a wallet. So I say all that to say this. There's nuances. I'll probably do a YouTube video of showing this. But, and this was one other thing. You can trade, for example, Quant is another ISO 20022 coin, and it's an expensive token right now, but it's low compared to itself, and it's doing really well. I think it has a good future. So I went to swap that. No problem. Minimum 42 Quant. Quant's over $100 right now. Because they were using whatever exchange, there's a default exchange that Ledger uses to swap, and they have some backroom agreement. But some of the tokens have minimum requirements. Chainlink was another one. I went to go swap for Chainlink, and it had a minimum 42 Chainlink to swap. And I think Chainlink is $6 right now or something like that. So you have to do serious transactions to do your swaps across the board. So I say that as a caution to anyone watching, but also you as you're getting your dad set up, as everyone's on this kick of just do cold storage, bro, and do your trades on cold storage. No, you're probably still the cheapest trading fees will still probably happen on your centralized exchanges or your swaps. And from there you can move it. But that's kind of been my experience the last week. It was just kind of, I am spending way more on transaction fees getting the stupid things sorted. So just food for thought there as you're pulling money off of Binance. So where are you going next, Jarrett? You're pulling your money off of Binance. Where are you going next?
To the moon.
Oh, stop it. Stop it. Where are you moving your money to? Are you going right to your cold storage?
Just cold storage and different software wallets, because I run into the same problem. You know, Ledger only has support through Ledger Live for a handful of coins and tokens. And so with VeChain, for example, you have to have sync. So now I have
Yeah.
sync, which then ties into, it's like my Ledger Live for my hardware wallet. And then that sits on my desktop and I can look at that. But I actually don't, like, you still have to have the cold storage connected for anyone to actually get into that. So they could like get into my computer. They can't do anything. They can look at my Ledger
Yeah.
Live. They can't do anything, which is cool.
Yeah.
But I'm a less of a trader maybe than you. So I'm not worried about this. Once I buy, it just sits. I don't sell anything unless I have to. I've only ever sold XRP because of the SEC situation.
Yeah.
And I've only ever sold other things because I was trying to get them off BlockFi. So I think if you're a long-term investor, it's a lot easier situation with cold storage. But if you are looking to make moves, it's very difficult because you can't really do a lot of swaps due to the limiting nature. However, I do think Ledger Live and Ledger and other cold storage wallets and just software wallets like Trust Wallet, which I think is the best,
Interesting.
is going to add more and more coins. Like once ISO actually like becomes a thing, all of those will be on Quant, HBAR, XTC. I'm sure XRP already has maybe some support for it. So, but the other thing I'll say is if it doesn't have support on Ledger Live, it might be a signal to you that long-term people who know more than you believe that it's not going to be around. Therefore, they're not going to give support for it. So
Maybe.
as you build your long-term bags, the only coin I feel 100% about is Bitcoin. Everything else, I'm kind of like, we'll see. You know, I believe that Ethereum will be around. I have conviction around Ethereum and what it's doing, but I'm also kind of more and more wary of things. Like we haven't really seen proof of stake work well long-term at that scale of that amount of money.
Yeah.
And when price goes down, I mean, the whole thing, I know that you're getting paid in Ethereum, but I still haven't seen it work. Do I have a bunch of Ethereum? Absolutely. But you know, long term, if you're listening at all, this is financial advice. The only thing I would say, if you're into crypto, if you're trying to buy something, put it on cold storage or in a software wallet and forget about it for 10 years, just Bitcoin. Everything else, we'll see what happens.
But fun fact, just a fun fact for you. You mentioned we've been mentioning ISO 20022. I have a hard date from Swift itself on when it goes live. What's that date? I have it up right now. I could send everyone the link. Swift.com is the governing body for international banking transactions. The ISO 20022 apparently rolled out in several updates in America in November. It's been hitting other countries for almost over a year. Hit America in November, and I thought, great, that it's going to make my tokens pop. I was wrong. I'm still holding the 5 cryptos or the 6 cryptos around ISO 2002, but the date from the official website says, what are the new milestones leading up to general availability of central banking standards? It's called CBPR, cross-border payments and reporting. That's kind of the general term given to these. It's the 20th of March, 2023, with the coexistence of ISO 20022MX, and I don't know what the MX stands for, I'll find out, and Legacy MT. They seems like they were earlier iterations, until November 2025. So March 2023, it officially goes live as a tool. I don't know if that's going to make the price pop. Maybe the news might. The news maybe short-term might, but maybe as the reputation of these underlying cryptos being the one supporting it, that's my speculation right there. But they will also support legacy systems until 2025. So that's what's going on next. FYI.
I like that update. We should check in on that monthly and just talk about it. I don't think any news is going to make anything pump in 2023. I do believe it's all kind of, we're headed down. Jay shared an article and I think we discussed it more on chat, but I think we also discussed it maybe on Tuesday, but the idea that we're basically heading towards, as the Bank of England said, Jay, the worst recession in 100 years. Now, I think when mainstream media comes out about anything financial, they're going to be super hyperbolic because they're trying to get clicks. They're trying to sell. And clearly we shared it on our chat. It worked.
Yeah.
But I also think that when you're thinking about a financial disaster, I'm totally okay with thinking about how horrible it could be, because
Yeah.
normally it rarely reaches those depths. But because you've already prepared yourself mentally for like the worst possible thing, everything else seems a little bit, the landing seems softer. But the fiat standards got us between a rock and a hard place, between basically we either die by inflation or we die by recession. Um,
Yeah.
and so
You're
the
right.
US is choosing recession. And then the inflation will come down, and then we'll print money, and then we'll do the whole thing again.
Yeah.
And it's also looking like quantitative easing and basically printing money is probably going to happen in 2024. What else happens in 2024? Do we know? Anyone? Bueller? The Bitcoin halving. The
Yeah.
Bitcoin halving. And last time the Bitcoin halving aligned with QE was in 2020. Get ready for, and this is another one of my predictions. I don't mind being the weatherman. That's fine. By January of 2025, we will crack all-time high, probably over 69,000. And by that March, we're going to be hitting 100K Bitcoin.
All right. I'm
March
stacking.
2025. So
I'll put
write that
money in.
down.
I'm stacking. And like we should like have like a date on the screen that's just like a countdown. Countdown to Jarrett's next prediction. We could say,
Is that going to be a part of the depression, or is that going to be the end of the depression? Because
that will be the end. The depression will be 2023 into 2024, and then by the end of 2024.
So it's just a year, because like they were trying to compare it to the Great Depression. They were saying like not the same in terms of depth, like of how bad it's going to be, but it might last the same amount of time. Isn't that what they were saying?
So that, yeah, exactly. It not only the depth, but the breadth. And I think Victor's right. We just got to watch what the BRICS will do. I think that's a really good advice. BRICS being, and I'll try to not mess this up, but Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa.
Yeah,
I always get that. I'm not sure if South Korea.
South Korea.
Africa.
Yeah.
I think it's South Africa. Yeah. So, but Jay, I think the argument that it could be the not just the depth as far as the financial loss, but the breadth as far as like how many months it's going to be or years. I just think that that's changed. 2008 changed that. In 2008, we saw this thing, and it was like, this will like be the Armageddon for the financial system, and they just printed money. 2020, we have to remind ourselves, in 2020, the pandemic hits really for the world. Now I know it happened in Asia much earlier, even in 2019. That's but that's why we call it COVID-19. But by March, the Ides of March, mid-March is really where it hit most of the world. That's when the most of the world's kind of shut down. Now, there were parts of Europe that were shutting down in February. Italy was already crushed by February. But if you think that, we shut down the world by March 15th, they were printing checks and sending out checks by June, 3 months. So yes, the depth of the financial issue was huge because the world stopped, but the breadth of it, we as a global economy can only hold our breath for so long before we die. And the governments knew that, and rest was coming, and the Western governments, especially that weren't going to lock their citizens indoors, had to do something. So I think it could be deep, but I think it's going to be quick as far as history goes. And that's why I think by 2024, we'll be printing our way out of it. I also think 2024, what else happens in 2024? Besides maybe quantitative easing, absolutely the Bitcoin halving. I won't even ask the children at home. This is what happens in 2024. There's a US election, of which we have zero idea what's going to happen. The conservatives in the United States are going to put up Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump, and they're going to have a bloody, death match to see who comes out of that. And then the liberals, we don't really know what's going to happen, but it won't be Bo Biden.
Crickets.
Yeah, exactly. All that is incredible instability. So, and then
to Victor's point about BRICS, Brazil is launching announced it's launching its CBDC early 2024.
I saw this too.
Victor, and I'd like to see what else correlates there. Fun fact about the Great Depression. The Great Depression lasted 120 months from 1929 to 1939. I've got it up. The major turn was in 1933 when we temporarily went off the gold standard. And that is when they introduced quantitative easing for the first time, what we know today as quantitative easing. But basically, money manipulation, flooding the market with cash in order to jumpstart the economy so employers would start to hire. And so that's significant. But I don't know. To that point, Jay, we know we have these tools, so they will drag out this recession/depression. It won't be happenstance. We have the tools to come out of it, like Jarrett said, and I do agree with this. We have the options of inflation or recession. Pick one. Or pick the dynamic tension between the two. They're both kind of pulling. So we'll do like a little inflation and then a little recession, a little inflation. And in theory, it pulls us at least forward. I don't think that they will let it go that long because they're in control of it. And because we're headed into an election, someone's going to need a feather in their cap from a congressional, some congressmen, some congresswomen will need feathers in their cap. So someone will be pushing for, I think, inflation isn't felt when it's happening to you. It's felt after it's happened. So the pain of your purchasing power going down is like, God dang, I can't get enough bananas at the market or whatever people are buying. That feeling, that means inflation has already happened to you. The thing about recession is more immediate. Like, I just lost my job. Like my paycheck my contractors are dragging their feet now, my clients are dragging their feet paying their invoices to me as a contractor. So I think the closer we get to the election cycle, my prediction is you'll hear more about getting us out of recession, and they'll swallow the pill of a little bit more inflation during that season. Around that, before that, after that, I don't know, but I think that timing will also sync up. So I think we'll ease up out of there. And if that easing can happen when Jarrett's halving occurs, I think that we'll see like a small pop, enough for my investments to take off and for me to sell above my dollar cost average. So I think that's what I'm looking forward to, is like mid to late November 2024, mid to late 2024.
Yeah, like I'm a big history buff. I don't know if you guys know. Like lately I've only been listening to history podcasts, just sort of like Great Depression, like that kind of stuff. Like examining what was happening then and drawing the comparisons now.
Yeah,
and it's alarming of how similar it is. Like a lot of this. The stuff is very similar, but one of the things that I try to do is like see if something happened in the past and try to predict if it's going to happen in the future. So like there's a couple of things that I watched, like when you mentioned what was happening in 1933. So like a lot of that was Franklin Delano Roosevelt and a lot of his efforts they were basically printing all that money, but they were mobilizing the people.
So they were mobilizing the people. That's a good phrase.
Yeah. They were giving people federal jobs to go out and do stuff like plant trees and build roads and do that type of stuff. And you see a little bit of that happening right now, right? Because there's the infrastructure bill, right? And that's like trillions of dollars, $1 trillion that's meant to do something that's very similar. But at the same time, you see something new that's happening where the Fed prints money and just puts that money into the economy on its own, like buying bonds.
Yeah, bonds.
I think maybe they invested in some stocks and some different things. So it's a similar playbook with like a new added feature.
Interesting.
What's cool about the Great Recession of the past is that even though it was 10 years long, and some people say it was even longer, that maybe it even went up until like 1941.
Yeah.
But during that time, there was still a bull run. Even though there was a depression, there was still a bull run. And then so like that had me thinking like, oh, like, so even though it may look like things are improving overall, they may not improve at all. And then in the end, they actually didn't get out of the depression until World War II started. And they were able to pump even more money into the economy for the war effort and to get everybody up and running. And then the only reason it really ended was because they won the war, and they can just sort of like keep all that production going because they had to destroy so much of the world. Now you need that production to basically rebuild the world. So
I agree.
Hey, if we're on that same trajectory, I'm kind of like, that has me eyeing this Ukraine war like a bit more closely now. Like, oh, I wonder what eventually happens there from like a global military conflict perspective.
No, I think that's very interesting because I feel like World War II was the capstone of the Great Depression. The public was thinking about something else other than just money. We had spent about 5 years in a bull run, 3 to 5 years in a bull run at that point. And then suddenly we see industry shifting to building tanks and weapons. And then people are traveling internationally. And there was some initial romanticism with going to Europe and being a war hero. Initially, once you get there, it's a different story. It's a nightmare. But then right on the heels of that, you see the GI Bill and a ton of money continuously printed for the recovery efforts. And that's where we get the great suburbanization and people flocking from cities. They had money to buy homes, money to buy cars. And you're right. Like I would be very intrigued to see, does the war in Ukraine correlate? Is it escalating or waning because the timing's off a little bit? Will they drag us into another conflict as we get into 2024 and 2025 to emulate some of these conditions? It's hard to say. So on that note, quick shout out. A shout out to all the shit going on in the world. There's a lot of stuff, but a shout out to you guys, both the viewers and Jarrett and Jay. I love how knowledgeable you both are in your domains because it really enriches not just this conversation for the show, but actually what I go do with my investments. So I really appreciate it. That's my shout out today.
I'll shout out. I feel like lately all of my shout outs have been like negative, but I'll stay on that. Stay on that track. I'm gonna just a quick shout out to everybody who works at Binance, man. I mean, last couple of months, when everybody was doing the layoffs.
What a dick.
Everybody's been doing the layoffs the last couple of months, and Binance was like, yeah, we're still hiring, we're still recruiting, and like, I don't know, it might not. They may be coming over to the dark side soon. So just,
yeah,
got you in my thoughts, man. Hope it all goes well.
Oh, okay. So you're being kind to those people. Got it. Okay. Yeah. I thought you were like, shout out to the people crashing the market.
No.
Double fingers to everybody. Okay. I hear you, Jay. I hear you. What do you got, Jared?
My shout out is to everyone that's loving the World Cup.
Yes,
loving the sport, loving the event, and that are also highly aware of what's going on behind the scenes and the geopolitical ramifications of a lot of stuff that's coming out from the tournament. And it's been a great moment. The World Cup's my favorite month every 4 years. It's the one thing that it's like my Disney World. I don't know a better way to say it. So shout out to everyone who's going to enjoy the games today. You have Croatia, Morocco today, and then tomorrow you have Argentina and France.
Game today?
Yeah, it's the consolation, the third place. And then tomorrow you have Argentina, France. So shout out to that. If you're listening to us, no matter where you're listening to us, go ahead, subscribe, and share this episode with somebody else who needs to learn about CZ, Binance, how to get stuff off cold storage, how historical trends can maybe influence forward trends. We're on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter. Follow us at Not Crypto Bros. We go live every Saturday and Tuesday. So yeah, thanks everyone.